metrics admin training today. As I mentioned, will be fairly quick, maybe about 15 minutes or so, just reviewing the most common administrative features. I also have an administrative guide, which I believe I've already sent, but if not, I can send to those individuals who don't have it yet, which details and gives kind of a step-by-step of what we'll be reviewing today. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually using Mildred's account, so I'm just going to go ahead and log in.
I think I heard Xenia join us.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm on the phone, but I'm trying to get my computer going.
Okay.
Not a problem. We're actually recording this, so you'll have it for your reference for what you missed.
Okay.
Okay. Oops, I'm actually logged into my account. Let me log out of this. Go back here. Okay, great. So when I log in, and this is, as I mentioned, Mildred's account, so this is an administrative account. And really the only difference from this is we have a different dashboard for administrators. So down below here, it gives you a nice quick stats and about what's going on within the actual organization. And the only difference from administrator accounts is, of course, this dashboard, but then also this tab here, the administration. So everything else is what a job seeker would see. These steps here, you can still go through the catalog and search with job seekers. You just wouldn't have access to the actual training. But before we start here, what I'll do is I'll go over these quick stats. So down below here, it's just really a summary of what's going on. You can see the number of enrollments, the total course completions, and training hours. You can keep track of the certifications. So for right now, the St. Paul Public Library has $5,000 worth of certification funds. So these certification funds can be used for self-paced certifications as well as mentored certifications, which we offer here at Metrics, and the next one launching is actually Excel at the end of June. We can go further into those kind of details later on. But what you can just see here is you can see how many certification tracks were assigned, how many vouchers were issued, and how many people actually passed exams. So it's fairly easy to keep track of that and manage the certification programs.
I think you've answered the question for us before, but if we assign a certification track, it turns out that the learner changes their mind somewhere in the middle of that. Does that from our certification dollars?
Sure. So what will happen, and I'll show you when I go into creating a user, is when you actually assign a self-paced certification track, the training related to that particular track will pre-populate into the individual's plan. And the cost for the voucher training and certification is put on hold. For example, if someone's doing Microsoft Office Word 2010, the cost would be $150. That cost is put on hold until that individual completes all of the training with an 80% or higher. Once that individual does complete all the training with an 80% or higher, at that time, that money is taken out of the pool and the voucher is distributed. If they don't complete all that training with an 80% or higher, the cost of the voucher and the test prep, it's kind of put back into your pool of certification dollars, so that the only cost would be the cost of the training or the license. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great. So there's also, in terms of licenses, we have the Skillsoft and Medcom licenses. So there's 400 licenses. These can be used interchangeably. Typically, most individuals will have access to the Skillsoft. That's our business, desktop, and IT courseware. The Medcom training is actually the medical training. So we have about 900 courses or so from them. In addition to this, all individuals will also get access to Connexa Prove It. So that's a skill assessment, and there's about 1,000 skill assessments. They range from technical to IT to kind of soft skills. And really, that won't teach you anything. It's just testing your skills. So it can be used either pre or post-test training. And another resource it can be used as well is in business services. So it can be used, as a outreach to businesses and say, hey, you need to screen individuals. Here you can use this Prove It assessment to see if they're a right fit for the position if they have the skills.
Okay.
Below here we have just quick links to view reports. but I'll go into reports from the administrative tab, but this will give you kind of an overall list, group reports, license summary, quarterly, and yearly reports. In addition, we also have, to the right-hand side here, are just helpful documents that you can download. So here we have the technical requirements, so you can download those if you need it for the customer, or if IT, Anthony, you would need that as well. The administrator guide, like I mentioned, is located in here, as well as some of the marketing flyers that are available. So that's a kind of quick overview of the administrator dashboard. What I'll show you next is some of the features in this administrative tab.
Let's before you go on. What is the refresh rate for the administrative information and reports?
Pardon me?
When is it updated?
When is it updated? Oh, that's a great question. So this is actually, this goes on until the beginning of time. So essentially when you first start as an organization, this is all the data that happens. So there's not, it's not yearly, it's not quarterly, this is from the beginning of time. Obviously, if that's something that you want changed, if you want to make this a yearly, kind of start fresh each year, we can make that adjustment. That's something we can talk about post 60 days.
Okay, and my question is really how near to real time is the data tracking learner behavior?
Apologize, okay. So typically it should be maybe a 4-hour lag or so. What happens is we get all this data that the customers are doing within metrics from Skillsoft. So we essentially transfer their data to our database. So there might be a 4-hour, maybe 24-hour lag, but overall it should be pretty quick in responding to that, so you should get accurate results. Basically, if you register an individual, you can see them automatically in the system. Just in terms of course completions and training hours, sometimes those have a lag of about 4 hours.
Okay, and it's all cloud sourced, so it's not dependent on a server?
Correct.
Uplink or anything? Okay.
Right, so we're just pulling this data essentially from Skillsoft, and it comes onto this learning management system. So everything is trackable that someone does in the system. We're just, there's only a lag time because we're getting that data in terms of course completions and training hours from Skillsoft themselves.
Okay, good.
So what I'll show you first is how to create a user. So what you'll see here on the administrative dropdown, there's users and groups, reports, and admin FAQ. If you should have any questions in terms of administrative functions, unsure of something, you can refer to the admin FAQ, but you can also feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to be your consultant to help you administer this program and implement it properly. So first, what I'll do is...
When we are creating a user, we are assigning a license to someone, correct?
Correct, but you don't necessarily have to assign a license to a user or to an account. I'll get into that when I show you here.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click on users and groups. When you click on users and groups, you have two options. You can go to the users and create or edit users, and then we can also create or edit groups. What I'll show you first is creating a new user. So go ahead and click on create a new user. When I do that, we're brought to this basic information page. So this is how you're registering the user. Typically what we do in terms of usernames is maybe first initial, last name. Each organization does it differently in how they want to do usernames, but it just seems easiest to do first initial, last name. Sometimes you'll get this error that says, sorry, that username has already been taken. And although that user might not be specifically in your org, these usernames are across the entire metrics learning platform. So it might be used in another location. So if you have a really generic name like Jane Williams, it might already be taken. So we just recommend using numbers at the end of it to make sure that you can differentiate it. For passwords, we typically keep it the same just so it's easy to administer, and when you're doing an orientation, if someone forgets, you can easily remind them. So typically for us, we'll do either learn or metrics. In this case, I'll do learn. First name, last name, pretty basic. For email address, it's important that the individuals have a valid email address because that's how their login information is sent to them. as soon as you've actually finished registering an individual or creating a user, they automatically get an email with this login information. It's the welcome email, and that email can be adjusted once we figure out what the language that you want to put in there and how you really want to direct individuals, and it's something that can be determined later on. Put in the location. The organization, that will always be St. Paul Public Library. This client ID, if you have a way that you differentiate your library patrons, you can put it in there. Either way, or you can either leave it blank. For privileges, there'll be 3 different options here. The library patrons will have the customer privilege, as they are the job seekers. And then the 2 administrative accounts that you can have access to is managers and reports. So reports will only give an administrator access to reports. They won't have this ability to actually create users, assign licenses. A manager has this ability to both view reports and create and edit users. So go ahead and click Customer. As I mentioned, there are different dashboards within the system. So for the customers, it will default to user. But as you can see here, we have the administrator dashboard, veterans, which is something a little separate, and employer as well. And then you have these additional boxes if you have their phone number, career interest, or comment. Once again, those aren't necessary, but if you want to keep track of that information, you can. What I'll do next is click Groups. So on this page for the administration, you have to add the user to at least one group. Here we have St. Paul Public Library as the primary group, and then we have these subfolders. These are the 3 locations that we'll be piloting, and then this is just a folder for the pilot, which we can change that name, and I'll show you how momentarily. But what they have to do is they have to be added to at least one group, and this grouping is really for reporting purposes. So you can keep track and really run reports on what you feel suits you best as an organization. If there's subfolders within here, let's just click on Arlington Hills. If there were subfolders, let's say you had subfolders for employers or the digital literacy program, you can add those in here and access them by just clicking on the folder itself. But let me go back to the St. Paul Public Library, the general one. What I'm going to do to add a user to a group, you click on this green plus sign. When you do that, you'll see that the selected group that this individual is in the main category there. So for reporting purposes, if we're to pull the St. Paul Public Library, all these subfolders would pull into that report. But you can add individuals to different folders. So let's say I want to add them to another folder as well for reporting purposes. I can do that as well. To delete them from a group, you just click on this red X, delete, and then you can see that group. So as I mentioned, they have to be added to at least one group. What I'll do next is click Licenses. The licenses page is where you actually give them access to the training content. So here you can see there's Skillsoft available and Medcom available as well. If they want a Skillsoft license, what I can do is populate the bubble next to the 180 days, click on Assign Additional License, and what will appear is their Skillsoft license here. So you can see the date it was assigned and the date it was expired. What will also happen, I haven't set it up yet, but automatically with these licenses, whether you assign a Skillsoft or Medcom, you'll also see that Prove It license added on there automatically as well. Prove It is unlimited access, so everyone who receives a license will also get a Prove It license as well. What you can do with these buttons under Action, this one all the way to the right recycles the license. With an individual, what will happen is if an individual does not launch a course within the first 14 days, their license is automatically recycled and put back into the pool of licenses, so that pool of 400 licenses. That 14 duration can be changed to whatever duration you choose. That can be determined post 60 days before we launch the pilot, or we can just turn it off completely. But as default, there's that 14-day recycle rule. If an individual launches a course, then that license is typically used. So you can't recycle a license. But if you need to, you can manually recycle a license that has not been used or has not launched a course by clicking on the recycle button here. This deletes the license, which is blocked out because you can't do it right now. And then this green plus will add another license if needed, or extend the licenses for another 180 days. And then this button is all the way to the left-hand side is a grace period. So you have a customer reach out to you and say, hey, I just need to finish 2 more courses. Can I have an extension on my license? If you would like to give them a 5 cents, click on this give grace period, and that will extend the license an additional 5 days. So they have some leeway in actually completing the courses that they choose. What I'm going to do is click on this green recycle button just to recycle it. I'm going to press OK because it's just asking me if I'm about to permanently recycle this. Say OK. And then you can see here the license was recycled, and there's no license.
So let's say we recycle a license, and can we only recycle the license within the first 14-day period? If the person starts a course and it's 28 days and they're not going to use it further, are we no longer able to recycle that license?
Correct. So what will happen is automatically within the system, if they don't launch a course within the first 14 days, their license will be recycled regardless. However, once they do launch a course, let's say they launched a course on day 10. At that time, even if they did not want to continue, that license is technically used. So as soon as they launch a course, that license will be used.
Okay.
So if I want to, just for your reference, if I want to go back and check to see if this individual had a previous license, on the top here, and I know I'm just creating a user, but just for your reference, I'll click on all licenses, and we can see that this individual had a license inactive, it was manually recycled, and those were the dates for it, which I'll get into momentarily. Down below here, this credential program, this is where we assign certification tracks. So as I mentioned, an individual can actually pursue training for industry recognized certifications through metrics. By assigning them a certification track, that means their certification track is associated with a voucher or a dollar amount at the end. An individual can still pursue the training on their own, self-paced within metrics, by going to catalog and going to industry certifications. They can all add whatever certification they choose. They can do PMI, they can do Microsoft Office. It just won't be attached to that voucher at the end. So that is an option if they just want to get some training. But if they do want to go ahead and pursue the certification, meaning that they take the training, and once they complete the training, a voucher will be sent to them via email. At that time, they would have to go to an authorized testing center, whether that's Certiport, Pearson VUE, or Prometrics, and they would have to sit for a proctored exam. So they don't become certified simply by taking the training alone. They have to go to that outside testing center. But to assign a certification track, what they can do is, here we have a drop-down of the certifications within metrics. If they're interested, let's say, in Word 2010, I'll select that. Then from there, I'll say Assign Selected Credential. And what you'll see here is once I have assigned that selected credential, it will populate here. The status will be new, the price will be there, and the expiration shows 9/1/2015. So this is set from 90 days that they have the ability to actually complete the course or complete the certification track. That, again, can be changed if you want them to complete it within 30 days, 60 days, etc. That's something that can be decided post 60 days pilot. But as you'll see, once you assign the credential, the actual training related to that certification will populate into their plan. In addition, the license that they need, so in this case, the Skillsoft license, that will automatically be assigned. So you don't have to go up here and assign a license before that if they're doing a credentialing program. You can just go down here and that automatically populates. What I'll do from here is I'll click Recycle Credential.
Liz, the pop-up that just showed the various costs of licenses, have you already provided me with that by email?
No, I have not, but I can do that.
Okay, I'd like to have it. Thank you.
Sure. Let me just make a quick note. Okay. So I'm going to do here, you can see that it's canceled. I'm also going to recycle this as well. Okay. And, okay, just kick me out of there. Let me go back to edit users here. Okay, so just go through here. Next to licenses. Okay, so the next step after assigning a license is going to optional information. So I'll click on optional information. This window that's appearing here, this is just asking me if I want to continue without assigning a license. So you are able to create accounts without necessarily assigning a license. It's just going to ask you if that's okay. So I'm just going to press OK.
And how would that work, creating an account and not assigning a license? What can that user then do?
So really what that user would do from there is they could explore the system. They could understand what is actually offered and if they want to pursue it. What would happen is if they went to launch a course, it would say, sorry, you don't have a Skillsoft license. Really that there really serves no purpose in kind of creating just false accounts because it just creates more work for the admins. If you want the option for an individual to explore the system prior to gaining access, that's why we have that orientation session to see if they're interested in actually pursuing metrics and understand what it's about. But then in addition, what we can do is we can set up so-called dummy accounts or demo accounts so that individuals can maybe go in there and play a little bit before actually getting access to the system.
Okay, so you're basically creating a demo account if you do it that way.
Correct.
Okay.
So from here, this optional information page, what this has is it just allows you, if they're a veteran, you can mark it here, and then you can also change the language over to English or Spanish. I'm sorry, to Spanish or Mandarin Chinese. So if you do have a population that speaks that, the website will change over to that.
Okay. Does the veteran status confer some privilege or?
The status change much?
Right, the status change to veteran.
No. So for the veterans, there are some programs that keep track specifically, how many vets they need to serve. So that's why that option is in there. But it doesn't change over specifically for this, no.
Okay.
What I'll do is click Finish. And in order, when you have clicked Finish, you'll see that the user was successfully created. Just make sure that you come to this page after editing a user or creating a user to make sure that it properly registered.
Okay.
So what I'll go to next is I'll go back to users and groups. What I'll go into is I'm actually going to edit users. So I'll show you if you need to go ahead and maybe assign a course to an individual or check on their licenses and see if they need another license assigned or if they have items you need to change, we can go ahead and do that through editing the users. So when I click on Edit Users, what will appear is the list of all the users in the organization. Or if an org admin is specific to just a certain folder, they'll only see those customers in that folder, that section. But right now, all of you have organization admin accounts, so you can see everyone within the organization and those that have registered. So what you can do from here is you can go ahead and click Edit. Edit there. Once you click Edit, you'll see this summary page of the actual account. Here you can see when they were first created, when they last logged in, the group that they're in, and also the type of account that they have. You can also see down below the activities that they're doing. If they have a goal job, you can see that as well, and their progress within the system overall. To the right-hand side here, under Account, you'll see the Edit Account, and that option there will bring you through basically what we just did in kind of creating the account. So it'll bring you through that basic information to the groups page, licenses, and all the way to the end. So if you do have to edit that overall kind of activity, you can do so there. If you want to assign a course to an individual's learning plan, what you can do is click on Manage Plans. I'm going to open this in another window. If you click on Manage Plans, you can actually see the different courses an individual has added to their plan and their status. If you'd like to assign an activity to this individual, what you can do is click on Assign a New Activity. From here, this will bring you to the catalog page where you can do a keyword search. Say Word 2010, I'll press Go. And here we can add different courses to the individual's plan. We can see if we click on the orange arrow to the left, a brief description and the estimated time. If we think, yep, this is a great fit, or this is what that individual should be doing, we'll click Assign Activity. Here we have a due date and a reminder date. These due date and reminder dates, these are for time management purposes only. The individual has the full duration of their license, which is 180 days, to complete any courses that they wish, assuming that they launched a course within the first 14 days and their license is active.
Are these reminders sent via email to the users?
Correct. So it can be somewhat annoying if you add a skill track or a certification track, because they'll get these dummy emails to their saying, hey, you have to complete this activity. So it helps with time management, but it can also be somewhat annoying for the customers. I'll go back to this page here for the administration. So we just reviewed how to assign an activity to an individual's plan. What I'll show you next is the Manage Licenses. So the Manage License page, what this does, it brings you back to this page, which we've already seen. If you need to assign another license, or if you need to check their history of licenses, you can do so by going to All Licenses. As you can see here, this license was actually recycled because there was not a course launched within the first 14 days. So that's why it says user type is abandoned, because they had not launched a course within the first 14 days. So therefore, the license is inactive. But here, like I said before, you can just keep track of what they've done in terms of the licenses. And the last feature I'll show you on here is just the reporting feature for the individual. So from here, you can view the individual's reports. And I'll show you momentarily where you can access the report and other reports like this. So here, when we click on the individual's report, we can keep track of what they've done in the system. So we can see their activities, the number passed, failed, and overall time in the system. We can keep track of what they've done down below here as well. If we'd want a more detailed report, there's this icon, which looks like a bar graph icon, and that will give you a more detailed report in terms of what they scored on their pre and post test, as well as how much, when they first accessed it, when they last accessed it, and what they scored on the actual course itself as well. But if they had completed a course, you could see the course scores here. You could also see what date that they completed it. And when they do complete a course with an 80% or higher, this blue graduate icon will appear, and that will be a certificate of completion. So that certificate of completion states their name, the course title, as well as the content provider. Now that's not a certification, that's just acknowledging that they completed the course, and it is printable, or you could save it as a PDF. So you can access these as well for an individual, but the individuals also have access to that. And of course, you can download these reports through Excel. So you can download the overall activity, or you can also download every time that they accessed the courses itself as well. So you can really hold them accountable for what they're doing within the system. What I'll show you next is going back to users and groups. I'll show you quickly how to add and edit groups. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click on Create Group. From the drop-down under Organization, you'll always pick St. Paul Public Library. From there, what you can actually do, the parent group will always be, well, not always, let's say you want to create a subcategory for Sunray, for the digital literacy group. So I'll go ahead and click on Sunray. and I want to create a subcategory, digital literacy. I'm going to type that in and press Add Group. And here you can see that digital literacy is now a subgroup of Sunray. So that when I pull reports specifically for Sunray, that will include the digital literacy and all the other subcategories. So if I want to pull a report on the whole organization, I would pull the St. Paul Public Library. But then if I pulled a report on the subcategories, it would only pull accordingly. So what I'll show you next is actually how to delete that group. So I'll go back to Users and Groups. I'll go to Edit User, the organization, once again, St. Paul Public Library. I can go to Group. I'm going to go to Digital Literacy. And here I can change the name. Here I can also, if I change the name, I would have to update the group. So let's just say, let's update group. You can see that the name has changed there. But if I want to delete it, I can now click Delete Group. Are you sure you want to remove it? OK. And as you can see, it's now deleted. So that's pretty straightforward in terms of the group structure. But that's something we can once again get into post 60 days once reporting needs are kind of finalized and understanding what we need to report for you all within metrics. So getting on to reports, what I'll show you next is that feature of what we have right now in reporting for metrics. So I'll go ahead and click Reports. All of you will actually receive a monthly email on the first of the month that summarizes the progress of individuals, not the progress of individuals, but a summary of the individuals registered from the beginning of time. So that monthly report, I believe that I've sent that to Mildred, maybe a draft copy, but if I haven't, I can send that again. That will automatically go into your emails the first of the month for the 4 of you. But what you can also do is pull these reports however frequently that you'd like. I'll review these reports quickly. So overall activity, this first report, the user access report, let me open this up in another window. The user access report just shows you when people have actually logged into the system, so you can just keep track of what they're doing and what they're accessing when they're logging in. It's really, if you want to keep track of that, that's great, but a lot of organizations don't use that report all that often. The user registration report can be helpful if you have orientations, let's say every Thursday. You can keep track of the users that were actually registered. So if I'll click on Register User Registration, here you can do also a date range for when users are registered. So if you want to keep track or you want to download information of all the users registered in the month of May, you can do that here. And obviously, you can see the day that they're registered and the group that they belong to. So if there are the different libraries there, you can see that they belong to the group. Also, if you click on the orange arrow, that will give you the first and last name of the individual if needed. And once again, you can download this data as well into an Excel file. The users and groups report under this heading, this is probably what you'll use most frequently. The first report here, this is the user report. That was just the report that we saw within that account where it just gives a summary of the individual users. So if I go ahead and click on user reports, here you can type in keyword for the specific user, and then by clicking on view report, it'll give you that summary of what they've done in the system, and you can also view their learning activity as well. The most frequently used report is the group and departments report, and this is probably what you'll be using most in actually managing the program and understanding what individuals are doing within the program. So here from the user for the group department reports, you'll see the different folders. So this really comes into term, how you want to set up your folders and organize it based on these reports. So as I mentioned, if you want to pull a report for the entire organization, you'll want to make sure that the parent group is wired because that will pull all these subcategories here. Obviously, if you pull just these reports for Sunray, it'll only show that specific folder and all subfolders, and same goes for the other 3 folders. But like I said, if you want to pull for the entire organization, just make sure that you're pulling from the parent group wired with the group name St. Paul Public Library. In doing so, you can pull 2 types of report in this feature. You can pull by user or by activity. So first I'll show you the by user. So this group report by user gives a summary of the users. Obviously, you can change the name or change the date range from when they were added or when they were completed. So if you want to say, okay, how many course completions were there in the month of May or the month of June, you can do so there. And then it will give you a summary of the number of users added, the number of times courses were accessed, the number of course completions, the number passed, and then the total training hours. The training hours recorded in metrics is the time spent actually within the courses. So it's not the time, although individuals may be in metrics and maybe doing some career exploration or looking at the catalog, that time won't be recorded. It's simply the training hours that they're spending inside the courses itself. Down below here, you can have a further summary of when the individual is added, their last login, test scores, the number of acts passed, and hours. This information, again, is downloadable in Excel, but it just kind of gives a summary of what's available there. So that was the by user report. What I'll show you next is the by activity. The by activity, it's exactly how it sounds. It gives you a summary of the activities completed in metrics or being added to their plan. So what you can see is that you can see the number of activities added to individuals' learning plans. You can see the number passed, number failed, overall time in the system, as well as average score and the most active object, or more so the most active training course. So once again, if you look down below, you can see the names of the different activities, who the individual is accessing them, the status, score. If they completed it, you can access it here. And once again, you can access the course completions, certificate of completions, as well as a more detailed report if needed. So that's just the group and department reports. Back, access it here. Confusing. The next group that I'll show you is the user list reports. That just gives you a list of usernames for the individuals. Browser statistics report, that's really something that we use from our end. We're able to actually see the settings an individual has within the system or within their computer so that we can, if they're having trouble launching a course or accessing a course, we can use this browser statistics report to see what their settings are and help them adjust them if needed. We also have the license summary report. That just gives you a summary of the licenses used. I'll go ahead and click on that. This is available from the administrator dashboard as well, but obviously what you can do is you can select the start and end dates for when you want to run that report, and it will show you how many you've used during that duration. And then the last report I'll show you, since you all aren't using self-directed, you won't be using this report, the self-directed report, but you will be using the credential status report. The credential status report allows you to keep track, and obviously there's nothing here, but it allows you to keep track of those individuals who have been assigned credentials. So you can keep track of how they're doing, how many courses they have completed, opposed to how many need to complete for the track, and just make sure that individuals who are getting the tracks are actually completing them and see their status, whether it's new, whether they completed, passed, failed, etc. So overall, that is a summary of what the reports are and kind of the features within administration. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
No.
It all seems to be pretty straightforward.
It is.
If you've used this kind of software structure before, and I think probably all of us have. So at this point, our plans are to bring in our pilot group next Wednesday and talk through the program, and at that point we would want to assign licenses so their learning could begin anytime after midday on Wednesday. Is there any reason to believe that there's anything that would impede our doing that?
No. So as previously mentioned, we don't have the specific site up for you all with the branded logo here. And we can do that post 60 days, or if you want, we can do that over the weekend. All I would need is a high-def logo from you all, and I can send that to my technology officer. But other than that, even if you don't want to do that right away, they can still have access to the system and complete training as normal.
Okay. And I'm not so concerned about doing that right away. I want that to be part of what we're doing for overall branding that we'll finalize within the 60-day period here.
Sure.
So that's not really going to be a huge concern. During the 60-day period, we have had this instruction. We will have the recording so we can go back to that for reference if need be, and use the admin guide. I'll also ask you to send that again with that list of costs that you're going to send me so that we have that in ready reference.
Sure.
If we should need help during the 60-day period, if something comes up that we've got a concern with, we're trying to assign a license to a learner and we don't quite know what's going wrong, where do we go for help during the 60-day period?
So if it's all, since I'm working directly with you, you can just call me or email me. I'm kind of your point of reference in terms of consulting and support for the system. If individuals have trouble accessing metrics from their home computers, what I'd ask is that they go to the Help tab and submit a support ticket. So what they can do from there is click Support, and then under step number 3, it says create a new support ticket. So if they're having technical difficulties, our support team can respond to them fairly quickly, and we can get back to them just letting them know, hey, I can't launch a course. We'll send them a browser check, make sure everything's good to go on their own computers, and get them up and running. But obviously for these 12 individuals, if one of them is having a problem, you can also contact me on their behalf, and I'll be happy to assist.
Okay, very good. Anything, Xenia or Nate?
Nope, nothing for me. I'm good.
Nothing for me right at this moment either.
Xenia, we're getting a little bit of interference on your phone.
No questions on my end.
Okay, all right.
So Mildred, I actually do have one kind of last question here. Are these 12 individuals, will they be going through different types of training? What's their background really, and what they want to do and what they want to accomplish here?
We're going to find out more about that on Wednesday. I have had a chance to talk to some of them, and I've had some express an interest in Microsoft, so that's definitely going to be something. I had a couple folks who are interested in Adobe. Are we prepared to offer the Adobe instruction and support that we need to if we want to do that within the 60 days?
So it's not, I know you had emailed me about a specific Adobe program, and we still don't have that particular.
It's not Pro Tools.
Yes, but there is some Adobe that you can search through the keyword search in the catalog, and if that's a good fit for them, that is available.
And I've had some indication that there is QuickBooks interest.
Correct. So for QuickBooks, there's actually one course from Skillsoft themselves. It's called Getting Started with QuickBooks 2009. So it's a little, it gives them a basic outline of QuickBooks itself. However, if someone's really interested in QuickBooks, let's say they want to pursue, training, certification, we recommend doing the drop-down, the credential track for QuickBooks, because through that drop-down we have a 12-hour course that's actually approved from Intuit themselves, and that's what we use for our certification programs, and it's not available simply by accessing the catalog with a regular Skillsoft license. So it is there's particular training for these certification that is a little more helpful if someone's trying to get more in-depth information and training on QuickBooks.
Okay, so the 12-hour certification track, is that just part of the regular course programming?
So that's only available, it's not available in the catalog for individuals. It's only available through that credential drop-down on the license page. So if you were to assign them a certification track, that 12-hour course would pre-populate into their learning plan.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, I think that takes care of it for now. I'll be back in touch with you.